All right, let's dive right into this fascinating and honestly super complex web of modern warfare and technology. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a global situation that is just wild. We're going to map it all out so you can see exactly how these moving parts connect. We're talking about a scenario where everyday commercial technology crashes head-on with high-stakes international diplomacy and the very stark realities of the battlefield. It's a brilliant and kind of terrifying case study in how modern conflicts are actually fought.
I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi novel, right? Why on earth is a commercial satellite internet service, the exact same stuff you might use to get Wi-Fi at a remote cabin, why is that the most sought-after weapon in Washington right now? Well, we're going to unravel this central mystery. We'll look at how a private tech CEO's internet service somehow became a pivotal chess piece in international relations, military strategy, and global security.
So, here's our roadmap to make sense of all this. First, we'll look at the purpose of a closed-door meeting in Washington. Then, Starlink's invisible boundary, the Patriot missile shortage, Elon Musk's escalation concerns, and finally, how this all ties into two intertwined wars. Okay, part one, the purpose of the Washington closed-door meeting, a high-stakes ask at the Capitol. So back in late July, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy traveled to the U.S. Capitol. He was there for a private, high-stakes meeting with former U.S. President Donald Trump. And his goal for this meeting was actually highly specific. He was basically asking for help to persuade SpaceX CEO Elon Musk to lift restrictions on Starlink. See, right now, Ukraine really wants to use these satellite systems to guide offensive strikes deep inside Russian territory. They're facing these relentless missile and drone attacks, and they believe the absolute best defense is to just target the launch sites directly. But to pull that off with any kind of accuracy, they desperately need Starlink's connectivity. So what was the response? Well, it was incredibly hesitant. Trump didn't give a definite answer or commitment to this Starlink request. And it actually goes a bit deeper than that. Just a few weeks prior, at a NATO summit, Trump had mentioned possibly granting Ukraine a license to produce their own Patriot interceptor missiles. But in this meeting, he essentially walked that back. He noted later in a cabinet meeting that this kind of tech is, quote, not an easy thing to hand over. So yeah, no final decisions there. Moving on to part two, Starlink's invisible boundary, the digital frontline. We normally think of frontlines as like physical trenches or physical borders on a map, but in this conflict, the frontline is actually digital. Right now, Elon Musk allows Starlink to function inside Ukraine. And crucially, that includes Ukrainian territories that are currently occupied by Russia. That access has been absolutely vital for Ukraine's defense. But, and here's the catch, Starlink is strictly geofenced. It basically creates these restricted zones. The software automatically disables the service the very second a terminal crosses into Russian borders. It's literally an invisible wall, programmed from space. This brings us to part three, the Patriot missile shortage. The search for a workaround. So why does this digital restriction matter so much right now? Well, it really comes down to a desperate search for a workaround. Look at it this way. Ukraine's defensive strategy has been to just wait and intercept incoming attacks using U.S.-supplied Patriot missiles. But the current status of that strategy, it's becoming completely unsustainable because there are severe shortages of those exact missiles. So they naturally look to an offensive strategy, right? Target the Russian launch sites before they even fire. The method for that would be using Starlink to target and guide those long-range weapons. But as we just saw, that's blocked by Elon Musk's current geofencing restrictions. They are totally caught between a lack of defensive ammo and a digital block on their offensive alternatives. To really grasp the military necessity here, Republican Senator Mike Rounds, who was actually part of these briefings, hit the nail on the head. He stated that Ukraine explained they need Starlink access to improve accuracy for long and mid-range weapons, clearly stating that hitting targets precisely is vital. I mean, think about it. When you're running out of ammunition, you literally cannot afford to miss. Hitting targets with pinpoint precision isn't just some nice-to-have luxury anymore. It is absolutely vital to preserving what little stockpile you have left. Which leads into part four, Elon Musk's escalation concerns, the CEO's dilemma. But we really have to look at this impartially from all sides. What exactly is the CEO's dilemma in this totally unprecedented situation? Well, first off, there's a profound fear of escalating the conflict. Second, Musk really wants to avoid making SpaceX, which is, remember, a private commercial company, complicit in direct offensive attacks on Russian soil. Then you factor in the severe legal constraints and restrictions that govern how commercial tech can even be used in warfare. Ultimately, if Musk just lifts that geofence, SpaceX suddenly takes on these massive new security and diplomatic burdens. And honestly, no private company is traditionally equipped to handle that kind of weight. Now, what's really interesting and honestly kind of staggering is this next part. This isn't just about internet access anymore. NATO intelligence actually suspects that Russia views Starlink as such a massive threat that they're developing a space weapon specifically to counter it. Yeah, a space weapon. Reports suggest this weapon would create a massive cloud of debris up in orbit to physically destroy the Starlink satellite constellation. When a nuclear superpower is allegedly designing space weapons just to take out your company's product, those security burns we just talked about become very real very fast. And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, Two Intertwined Wars, the Global Chessboard. To connect this localized tech issue to the broader global chessboard, we have to zoom out and look at the root cause. Like, why is the US short on Patriot missiles for Ukraine in the first place? It's a direct chain reaction. The United States is short on Patriot missiles because they've been engaged in a 5-month-long, escalating conflict with Iran in the Middle East. U.S. defense logistics and supply chains are just being completely stretched to the limit by this second simultaneous conflict, and that directly drains the resources that are available to send over to Ukraine. Watch how these proxy wars have just officially merged together here. Step 1, Iran supplies combat drones to Russia. Step 2, Russia uses those exact drones to attack Ukraine. Step 3, U.S. intel reports that Russia is now preparing to return the favor by sharing upgraded drone tech back to Iran. And then Step 4, this incredible turning point on July 25th, Ukraine actually struck an Iranian merchant ship in the Caspian Sea, which resulted in 1 fatality. So what started as 2 entirely separate regional conflicts have totally bled into one another. The war in Europe and the conflict in the Middle East are basically locked in this devastating feedback loop. We just traced a crazy path from a missile shortage in the Middle East to a desperate need for precision targeting in Europe, all of which currently hinges on a digital boundary set by one private citizen. So here's the big question to leave you with. In modern conflicts, do the keys to victory lie with governments, or do they increasingly lie in the hands of tech CEOs? It's a profound shift in the reality of warfare, and it's absolutely reshaping our world. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this helped map out this incredibly complex web of modern global security for you, and I will catch you on the next one.